Ardmore traffic, Alpha Mike November, rolling to 1 and vacating to the training area via Drury. Smoothly for the fuel power. PCP's in the green. SP's increasing. Rotate. 70 knots. ADL, retract flaps, caution tank.
That old racetrack that I pointed to as the edge of Auckland's control zone? That's it down there with all the rough kind of grass growing over it. It's not used anymore, but it's still quite an obvious shape.
Gotcha. Got the railway tracks on the side. Here's to the right. Here's straight ahead. Left.
See these buildings with the green roofs on our right there, just on the other side of the motorway? That's a Karaka sail yards. So that's the very edge of Auckland's control zone right there. So as long as you stay on this side of it, and this side of the motorway, then you're safe.
Okay.
Won't be getting any calls or letters from them.
Yeah.
From there, our airspace runs across to that peninsula. Kind of, not the one with the house on it that's long and pointy, but just the middle of that one.
Oh, yep.
Sort of right in the middle there. You can see it on the map. It kind of curves around a little bit towards the long one, but yeah, through the middle of there. So a line from the Karaka sail yards to there, to the middle of Pukekohe.
Okay.
And you know where to find our glider field. We can see there are actually gliders stuff going on at the moment. Excellent.
Traffic X-ray, Romeo Alpha, left base, turning finals, 2-1 seal, full stop.
So parallel to that more or less should be Drury.
Drury township, which is right underneath us at the moment.
Okay, cool. And where are we tracking? Tracking towards
tracking Pukekohe.
Pukekohe, yep. Ardmore traffic, Alpha Mike November, Drury, 2,400, tracking Papakura.
Pukekohe.
Pukekohe. Correction, Pukekohe.
No worries. Yep. Okay, so basically, if you track us over towards Pukekohe,
yep.
Safest way to do this is just to stay on this side of the line from that peninsula to Pukekohe.
Yep.
You can see we've got another little town there, Pirata, by the looks of it, which is on a railway line just to the north of Pukekohe.
Yep.
But we'll go and take a closer look there. Have you seen Pukekohe East Airfield before?
Yep.
here as well. And notice again that just like everything else, you're orientating the map the way you're going to see things.
Yep.
It's a bit hard to read upside down, but you look it around. I prefer that to the people who sit reading it the right way up all the time.
Yeah.
It's a bit difficult to tell where things are. So basically, there's two ways to identify Pukekohe East Airfield. One of them is to look for this bit of settlement that kind of comes off on the side of Pukekohe.
Yep.
It comes out towards the east. And the other thing is to look for the big explosion crater. That's right on the outer rim of basically an old explosion crater.
Oh, yeah.
We're sort of getting towards it now. It's just over that way, and there's a couple of lines of trees on the far side of the airfield. But it can be a little bit hard to spot.
Yeah.
How are you going to tell which bits of Pukekohe you can fly over and which bits are in Auckland's airspace at this height?
We've got this railway track there, which is identified. Sort of the shape of the built-up area as well, you can sort of use that to identify.
Yeah.
I think I've got the railway track there. Yep, that's going through.
So basically the railway track, if we stay away from Pirata, which is just in that airspace, then we know that beyond there, if we stay on this side of the railway track, we must be okay. And as you said, the shape of the settled area as well is quite good. Help us, but basically halfway through Pukekohe. Once we get out the other side, we know the V8s are well within the airspace that we have in the training area.
Oh, yeah, that's
our little racetrack there, yep.
Okay, gotcha.
What's that little town just past the racetrack?
Like Tuakau?
That one's the big one, far away. There's one just off the end of the racetrack there.
Oh, okay. Buckland?
Excellent, so yep, that's Buckland. Alright, if you look to our left at the moment, can you see the explosion crater? Big hole in the ground just there, yep. So we're coming over the top of that bit of settlement that protrudes from Pukekohe, and off to our left we've identified the explosion crater. You've got that big line of trees on this side of it, and can you see the airstrip running uphill away from us?
Yep, gotcha.
There's sometimes a couple of aircraft parked on it.
Okay.
It's basically a one-way in, one-way out airstrip.
Gotcha.
As it runs uphill. Apparently you can take off and land the other way, but I don't think I'd want to with the degree of slope that's on it.
Yep.
Oh, so we'll track towards Tuakau now.
Yep. Yep, got them.
And how do we know where Bombay is?
Bombay.
Yeah, the township. So where would it be from here?
Bombay, so we're almost just over there, so it's going to be in our 8 o'clock position. How do I identify? What's that brown? That's a road?
So that's the motorway.
That's the motorway?
Going down there. It's a very prominent road.
Okay.
So it's actually that town on the hill, right underneath the wing at the moment.
Oh, right.
Not much of a settlement there, but basically where the glass houses are, up the hill from them, is Bombay Township.
Right.
So it's just to the left of the motorway, and then there's some power lines going around it to the left, so on the hill there.
Okay.
Tuakau, basically our training area comes just to a bridge on the river. Can you see where that would be?
There's the river. There, the white one.
Yep. Cool, so that's basically the bridge that denotes the... Well, that's a little bit into Auckland's airspace, just outside of the training area. And about this point passing Bombay getting to this area, I'd want to swap over onto Mercer traffic.
Yep, sure.
We've identified where that bridge is. Yep. We're going to start tracking towards Mary.
Okay.
So I'll be getting you to do that as best as you can.
Okay, so you got a bend in the river there. You got that white southern side, so that would be where Mary is right there.
Township 2600, tracking Takeoff.
Radio call as well to say that that's what we're doing.
Sure. That's Tuakau. Mercer traffic, Alpha Mike November, 1 North Tuakau, tracking to Mary.
And don't forget your altitude.
Alright.
That's alright, leave it for now. So what's that town over there, sitting on the motorway?
The bridge, we're about there. Sure.
What about that little one there, Pocono?
Pocono?
Yep, on the motorway when you drive south to Hamilton.
Yeah.
So that's Pocono right there.
Okay.
So you can see the green shed hiding from us at the moment, just a little bit further over towards the hills.
Okay.
And a little bit deceptive, these towns on the map. Which one is Mary? On the river here. We've actually got a couple of them.
I'd say that Mary is on this side of the river, the left-hand side.
It is, but we've got another small town before that, Mercer Township.
Okay.
So which one do you think that one ahead of us is? Try and use the river as a guideline for sort of bends in the river, the shape of it.
That's going to be in a bend. I would have thought that would be Mary.
Oh, it's actually Mercer. So if you have a look...
Mary's around the other side.
So Mary's got the big white buildings, so let's just make sure we're not descending too much.
Sure.
But we can see in this section of the river here, just out to your right, there's a bit of an island in the middle of the river.
Yep.
Okay, so that's that kink around there. Then it comes up this way, round a corner. And there we go, we've got a little township just around that corner, so that makes that Mercer.
Okay.
And as we continue down the river, you can see we've got a couple more little islands just in the middle of it, and then a slightly larger township just on the edge before the river curves to the right.
Yep.
So that's how we differentiate them, is really the shape of the river around them. It doesn't help that we've got a very strong westerly today, so we are getting blown slightly towards that way.
Yep.
Now can you see where the smoke is from the base of those hills there, the big kind of brownish looking bit?
Yep.
Also, that's actually Kelly Field.
Okay.
The runway's running away from us at the moment, and then there's a white building with a taxiway going down to it.
Brown runway?
Yeah, the brown runway. So I don't know what they've been doing to it. Looks like they've been burning things off or something. Doesn't look very nice at the moment.
Okay.
But that is Kelly Field, so they're on the map.
Okay.
So, Mary with the big white building.
Yep. Mercer traffic, Alpha Mike November, Mercer Township 2000 feet, tracking Mary.
That's all good.
Cool.
So from Mary we'll take a look at Cableway.
Yep. Here we go.
Here we go. Oh, flying the 162. So see if you can spot Cableway. So it's a line that should be running away from us from Mary.
Mary.
So
Yeah.
Mary is almost directly underneath us now. So in theory, should be off to the left. You might want to turn a little bit, and again, just watching that we maintain our altitude.
Yep. big long road.
Really big long road. It's pretty obvious to see. Oh, so we'll track to the middle of that. The reporting point is right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
We're going to join overhead for Mercer.
Okay.
So we're going to brief ourselves on that.
Yep.
So what sort of things did we want to go through?
Wind direction to main runway, the runway that would be landing.
Yep. So we can try this.
Mercer information. Surface wind 195. Degrees magnetic, 03 knots, QNH 1015. Parachute drop zone non-active.
So I wouldn't trust their Q&H, but so surface wind 195 degrees. That's almost where we thought it would be from, and that is still favouring 27 just a little bit, isn't it? It's pretty much a crosswind straight across.
Yeah.
Okay, so given that, what height do we conduct our overhead rejoin at?
500 feet above. So, second height would be 1,030 to 1,500.
So 1,500 feet, excellent. Alright, so we'll descend to that, and Mercer airfield, it's just alongside this canal bit that runs along there, so I'll get you to just point us off to the left where the end of those brown paddocks are, the top of brown paddocks running alongside the canal. And we'll make a call to say that we're overhead the cableway and joining overhead 27.
Mercer traffic, Alpha Mike November, overhead cableway 1,800, sending 1,500, join overhead 27.
Excellent, your radio calls are really good. Excellent, and what's our join going to look like? So which side is the non-traffic side?
That's the non-traffic side, the left-hand circuit.
Yep, so we're going to
go down this way.
Track over onto there, descend, down and around.
Yep.
Okay, so the airfield, basically look for the buildings on the other side of the runway. So that group of buildings over there, if you now come onto this side of the runway, you can actually see there's a sealed section just down there. If you hang a right at the moment, it'll pop up outside your window, essentially. So keep coming around. And just point at the bottom of the Hanua Ranges there, and then have a look outside your left-hand window. And there'll be an airfield quite magically underneath there.
There?
Yep, so that one there with the sealed bit's not actually the runway, believe it or not. The runway is the green bit. And we can check the windsock, and that definitely is just favouring 27, just. It's more of a crosswind than anything else. So we're going to now descend on the non-traffic side, aren't we?
Yep.
Okay. But even though the runway is quite small, make sure you take it nice and wide on the non-traffic side. Don't get yourself stuck with not enough space to really descend. So if you start coming around now, that's quite nice spacing. It's quite normal for the non-traffic side. And this is where at Ardmore we would make our radio call to say that we're descending on the non-traffic side. Yep. Looking out for any other traffic. And then making sure that we turn to cross overhead that upwind threshold so we can't extend past it, just in case people are taking off and climbing out.
Yep.
And essentially we just want to be at circuit height by the time we are crossing overhead that upwind threshold.
Yep.
Still looking out for any other traffic, anybody in the downwind. Nobody that I can see out there. basically just continue looking for your normal circuit spacing. So it can be a little bit deceiving that the runway is quite small and quite short.
Yep.
And also that we are tracking into wind, so our ground speed's not very high at the moment, and the tendency would be to turn a little bit too early and get a bit too close. But we don't want to do that. There's still no traffic that I can see crosswind or downwind. And once you think we're at normal spacing, you're going to turn us downwind, and we'll do a normal approach off this with a low approach and overshoot.
Cool. Mercer traffic up on Mike November, down 127. Brakes off, brakes on, code 6, message for Rich, fuel shut down. Fuel, we've got sufficient. Engine hunts, let's roll on.
So overturned the runway quite a bit, which is easy to do when you have this wind from behind you. And how are we looking?
We're low now.
Yep, very low.
500.
So let's keep our speed 70 knots still. But unfortunately we're not flying a 172 now.
Yep.
And doing that will allow us to get back onto profile. And we can call it, we're final 27, low approach and overshoot.
Mercer traffic, Alpha Mike November, final 27, low approach and overshoot.
And that is a huge crosswind.
Yep.
I'm glad we're not flying out of here. Okay, so if you're happy with that, we'll go around.
Cool.
Traffic out, Mike November going around 27, climbing 2,500 feet, and vacating Ardmore. Heat.
Yep.
And flap.
Mercer traffic, Charlie Jacob Papa 172, currently 2 miles south of Hoonula.
And 70 knots, so a little bit more back pressure there.
Currently 2,000 traffic.
Cool. It's hard to get back into flying this, everything's back to lower speeds again and higher nose attitude.
Yeah.
Alright, so we'll just keep climbing out until we reach a minimum of 1,500 feet.
Cool.
And then we will turn and have a look at Quarry Lake.
Information. Surface wind 196 degrees magnetic, 03 knots.
Alright.
Q&A.
So I'll see if you can get us to Quarry Lake from here. We'll keep climbing up to 2,500 feet.
Parachute drop zone.
That's the Takeoff from 27.
So that's Kellyfield, that's Mercer there.
Yeah.
Mercer traffic, Charlie Jacob Papa.
Quarry Lake is that bit there.
Hotel Dubin,
Is that there?
Hamilton 3,400.
Yeah.
So notice how I keep on turning the map so that it's still pointing to north even as we're turning here.
Yep.
Can you see where Mercer Airfield is again now?
Yep.
Yep, so top of those brown paddocks just across the canal from the buildings. Oh. It's the old quarry that has water at the bottom of it.
Okay.
So yeah, look for the very large dugout patch with the few dark trees on the southern side of it.
Yep.
Right, so what about Hotel the Vin?
That should be into the quarry. There's a traffic right over there.
Quarry Lake, 2,300 feet, and we're tracking south Hamilton.
So we'll track to it, so see if you can find it. Basically look to identify a couple of prominent features around it. So things I might pick out is the topography of the terrain around it, so hills.
Yep.
It's sitting at the bottom of hills.
Okay.
I also know there's going to be some power lines, because they're going past it on the map. But that's a couple of things to indicate to me where it might be.
There, there's hills.
So have a go. Point us where you think it is and we'll see if you're right. No, north is that way now, so we'll keep turning that map round.
Is it just on our nose there?
It is indeed. What I'll get you to do is just come to the right of it.
Yep.
And we'll go over the top of it so that it's out your left-hand window and you can get a really good look at the buildings.
Okay.
It basically looks a little bit like a school.
Yeah.
Almost. Right, so which building do you reckon it is?
It's just out there.
The eye of control.
So it's sort of like a barn looking type thing.
Not quite.
Oh yeah. There's a group of buildings there.
There's a group of buildings that look like a school, which would be hopefully not too far from being underneath us there now.
Oh yep.
Those ones.
Okay, yep.
Right underneath the wing. A couple of tennis courts. There is what looks almost a little bit like a vineyard or something.
Yep, I
the paddocks in there.
I see the tennis courts.
Yep, so that's it there.
Okay.
That's Hotel de Vin.
Yeah, gotcha.
So we can call to say that we're there and tracking Ardmore.
Okay.
You have control.
Mercer traffic up 1 November, Hotel de Vin, 2,400, tracking Ardmore, and changing Ardmore traffic on 18841.
So passing Hotel de Vin is a pretty good time to just change back to Ardmore, and we'd want to get the AWIB as well before joining.
Yep.
So the earlier you can do that, the earlier you can confirm which runway's in use.
0110 UTC. Operational information issued at 2340 UTC. Grass runway 0321, weight restriction 1500 kilos. Simultaneous parallel ups not permitted. Taxiway Juliet. Hotel and Takeoff pad 1 closed. Hunua airspace, G276, active. Surface wind, 220 degrees magnetic, 21 knots. Temperature, 162.5.
Sounds like a
Fuel gauge, 1016. Caution.
And we're still 1016.
Auckland
Cool.
reported 2000.
It's still 2-1, still pretty strong winds, and 2H hasn't changed. So how do we know that we're tracking back towards Ardmore?
We've got the power lines which we're following. We've got Hunua's on the right, and I can see Auckland. There'll be Auckland Airport in the distance, and Rangitoto straight ahead.
Ooh. That's good. I like that you confirm it using multiple things.
Just thinking about what do I know?
It's always an error if you just look down at one thing and go, oh, I know I'm here because that's there.
Yeah.
Well, okay. What about that other thing that's over there? And always get a range of things.
Yeah.
Definitely means more accuracy. Can you see where Hunua Township is?
Township of... No, I haven't spotted the township before.
Actually right in front of the nose, so you're doing a really good job of tracking. It's a teeny weeny township just over those dark group of trees.
Okay.
Not much of a township, more a collection of houses. But it is actually right in front of the nose at the moment.
Those ones are always very hard to see.
I've had worse in the South Island. I swear it was just a couple of farm buildings. It was like somebody's house and then their barn, and that was marked as a town on the map. West Coast for you, eh?
Yep.
Alright, so brief me, how are we going to join at Ardmore?
Okay, so we're going to come over to Ardmore there. I can see it just over the ridges there. 2-1 is in use. We're going to join OverHead. We're going to join. We're going to come wide down here. Then we're going to join the non-traffic side. We're going to descend the non-traffic side at 1,700 feet. Descend non-traffic side, join over the upwind threshold, and then join downwind 2-1.
Cool, so we're going to come at a minimum of 1,700 feet. I prefer to maintain at least 2,000 over these hills, if not, you know, what we're doing.
Yep.
And then once we're clear of the hills and we've got some options for forced landings on the other side, then I feel comfortable to descend.
Cool.
But otherwise, completely correct, as you said. So we'll make our first call overhead Hunua. Can you see the town now? Should be just down a little bit to ahead to the left.
Yep, that's it.
Yep, that one there.
Cool. Ardmore traffic up from Mike November 1 Northeast, Hunua Township, 2,300, and traffic to join OverHead 2-1.
Excellent. Where do you think the waterworks is from here?
Waterworks, that's going to be on the hill. It's going to be just about our 10 o'clock position.
Yep, bang on. So we'll go overhead that as well.
Okay.
That the flying in the South Island has been helpful for that?
Oh yeah.
For this and other club trips as well?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Basically the only thing that we have to be aware of not getting caught out with is just airspace coming back. We're underneath 2,500 feet, which means that we're fine as long as we stay within the boundaries of the NBZ.
traffic, Oscar for Tango is lining up 2-1. More traffic up on Mike November, Waterworks 2100, directed to join over here 2-1.
So at this point here we can start thinking about descending to 1,700 feet. Got a few more options again away from these hills.
Yep. 2-1, beginning south.
A1 rolling on the runway. He's going to be no problem to us.
I'd hope not. He's got something very, very wrong if he is. And we can just point a little bit closer to the end of the runway there.
Okay.
And we are going to get blown away from it today with that wind. Nobody else that we've seen or heard coming onto the non-traffic side.
Yep.
I'll just go a little bit wider than that.
Oh, yep.
Don't have to be on top of the runway or anything like that. I try and go sort of just on the edge of the old runway. I feel like that probably gives me quite good spacing. Means no silly rates of descent, but get your passengers.
Yep.
And then when you're ready, you can descend. Basically at any point once you're over that extended centerline, you can start descending. And just a radio call.
Ardmore traffic up on Mike November, descending non-traffic side 2-1.
And this is really nice spacing. It gives us plenty of time to look out for anybody climbing out, like that guy.
Yep.
Turning into the downwind. Whereas if we go really close and be on top of the runway, we end up with such a high rate of descent, we're paying more attention to that than we are to actually looking out, which is part of the purpose of the manoeuvre.
From Juliet.
And just remember, carb head on if you're less than 2,000 RPM. Right.
Please downwind now.
And we will start our turn to come overhead that upwind threshold.
Ardmore traffic, Elan for Tango, rolling 2-1, beginning to go.
And remember to allow for some drift with the wind as well. And copy.
Double traffic, Oscar Tango, Red Hill, 1800, beginning south.
Okay, so he's vacating, and that's actually Red Hill right in front of us, just that suburb up on the top of the hill there.
Okay.
Alright, all yours from now.
Clear to the right. Clear straight ahead. Clear to the left.
Good, so we know there's nobody else that we've missed there. I can't see anybody. Now the fun part begins, right?
Yeah. Drifting, drifting, drifting.
Ardmore traffic up on Mike November, down 121.
Break off. Christian. Thanks. Undercarriage.
I'll traffic, Kilo Tango, somebody call.
Go shut up, then. Yours sufficient. Engine has. Lights are all on. I knew the downwind would be really fast today.
Yep. So will your base a little bit, because there's not just a bit of tailwind here, it's a little bit of a crosswind as well, so you might just be going a bit faster on base, ground speed wise than usual.
Getting blown quite wide.
Yep, we have been blown quite wide by the tailwind downwind. So all that means is you have to be really on to making sure that we don't get low on profile.
Climbing wire crosswind 21, vacating the Gulf bar downwind.
Now the other thing to consider today is it's quite bumpy now as we approach the ground.
Yeah.
So what sort of approach speed do you want to maintain?
Slightly higher.
Slightly higher, yeah, just to allow for these bumps and the turbulence. So I would add on probably at least 5 knots.
Yep.
A little bit early on the turn, but
yeah,
you're getting a little bit low as well. Yep, so remember, raise the nose to maintain 70 knots.
Yeah.
Because if you do that in combination with that increase in power, then you actually climb a little bit back onto profile and you get there faster.
Okay.
Ardmore traffic Alpha Mike November, final 21 full stop. Ardmore Unicom, Romeo Victor Yankee, request radio check.
Romeo Victor Yankee, Unicom reach 5.
5, thanks, Romeo Victor Yankee.
And that wind is just from all over the place today, so if anything I'd prefer a slightly higher, steeper approach than a lower one.
Yeah.
That should help us to avoid the worst of the turbulence.
Unicom, how about 57?
How about 57, Unicom?
Any reported traffic on the Who Knows?
No traffic reported.
Roger, operator Who Knows, 1
Copy that. For how long was that, Frank?
And in all honesty, today, given these conditions,
Copy,
I'm quite comfortable maintaining 70 knots on final and just using the 2 notches of flap. Because it's quite a lot of turbulence for this plane.
Correction, downwind, we're getting to go.
Crosswind technique, right rudder and left aileron. Oh, good decision. So flap as soon as you've got a positive rate of climb.
Ardmore traffic up Mike November going around 21.
Tricky in conditions like this.
Oh yeah.
What we'll do is try not to get quite so far downwind this time, so we've got a slightly higher approach. And rather than aiming for the threshold, I'll get you to aim for something like Taxiway Juliet.
Okay.
It's a little bit further into the runway, and so it should hopefully help us to avoid a little bit of the turbulence that we sort of get right at the beginning of the runway there.
Yeah.
Ardmore traffic, Kilas Tango is overhead, Clayton Township 1,100 feet. Frank, Ardmore Unicom, Kilas Tango.
Kilas Tango, Unicom.
Is there any reported traffic on Lima 266?
No traffic reported.
Copy that, Kilas Tango. Traffic up Mike November, turning downwind 21. Ardmore traffic, Kilo Alpha Sierra, Brook B 1100, tracking to join on traffic sign 21.
So with this tailwind, try sort of setting up just as you pass the end of the runway here.
Yep.
By the time you've got the flap down and the power set, you'll find that you're probably about 45 degrees to the runway, which is where you want to turn.
Yep.
Upheat.
Unit Golf Kilo Alpha Tango entering Lima 266 for the next 30 minutes.
Copy, next 30.
To turn, we just want to leave it just a little bit longer. You can see how we're actually almost getting blown across there, but
Tower traffic, Kilo Alpha 0, non-traffic side 21.
there we go.
Tower traffic Alpha Mike November, final 21 full stop.
500.
So try and aim for taxiway Juliet. So you'll want probably a little bit more power to actually carry us through to there.
Yep.
It's hard not to focus on threshold because that's your normal aiming point, but just try and put that intersection of taxiway Juliet a third of the way up the windscreen. Keep that nose up a little bit, we're still kind of going for the normal threshold.
Ardmore traffic, Great Barrier Delta's on, currently 2 miles to the north of White Road River Mouth, 1,400 feet track northward.
Romeo Victor, Yankee lining up 2-1. Unicom, Echo Whiskey Papa, radio check please.
Echo Whiskey Papa, Unicom reads 5.
5, thank you. Tower traffic, Kilo Alpha 0, turning downwind from the non-traffic side 21.